Okay, I'm not really doing many invites to this video because I'm mostly like pre-recording it for the members of the UAW, the auto workers. But the information in here is gonna apply to all workers. So this is really just um, some insight for the auto workers and should be looking for from the company. So I'm gonna deal with the auto workers in here. I don't normally prep for what I say because the standard that I go by is prepare not what you say before the magistrate, for at that very moment the Holy Ghost that if I've done my due diligence in my study and my research, that I shouldn't have to prepare a lecture. So being that I don't normally do it, but I wanted this to be very, very clear for the worker. So this is it's gonna be focused on the auto workers, but this is the worker in general. All workers, if you have a job and you're not part of a union or collective bargaining unit, you are in the optimum position for permanent, irreplaceable poverty. So, what you're looking at right now in this society, if the workers do not unite and say enough is enough, if the workers don't come together, then they are in imminent danger of permanent poverty. Corporate greed is on a mission to leave the worker as permanently below the poverty line with no means to climb to the middle class, let alone upper middle class. Now, that being said, that the worker is in imminent danger, the worker has a responsibility to himself. The responsibility to himself is to protect his own self-interest as someone who sells their labor to support their life and their lifestyle. So if you are not prepared to protect your own interests, then this video will not be for you. It will not have anything in here that a person that's satisfied with the status quo of the little guy getting stepped on all the time and corporate greed drowning the common guy, the little people, and scream that they make too much money while they fill a pig troughs with these multi-million-dollar bonuses. So the worker need to know his rights. So if you're going to protect your interests, you need to know how to do it. So I'm going to give you a little bit of insight. One of the things is you have a right as a collective of workers to choose who represents you in your contract negotiations. Now, it's been standard with UAW, airlines, etc., that when they do contract negotiations, they go with the International Negotiating Committee. I'm going to come back to them in a minute. But just so that you're aware, at any time, if the workers do not feel that the company and their negotiating team are playing fairly or is protecting the interests of the worker, the workers have to come together at that point, and they would use the National Labor Relations Act Section 7, because under that section, Section 7 of the National Labor Relations Act, it tells you flat out the worker has a right to change his negotiator or whatever. The worker has that first right, meaning that international cannot override the collective will of the worker. I got to keep this in mind because when I get back to the end, it's going to come back and it's going to be more important than it is right now. So remember, the worker under Section 7 can come together in unison, right? And they can pick who represents them at their negotiations. Pay attention because I'm going to come back to this and there's a reason. Now, the first order of business, the worker must unify. Now, what do I mean by that? It don't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican. You work the same as the Republican or Democrat next to you to provide for your family. It's not about who is in office, who's getting elected, and who's not getting elected. None of that is going to change your economic standing nor support your own lifestyle that you choose. Now, that being said, the next thing you have to realize is why I am compelled to give you this information now. One of my elders came to me while I was studying a few minutes ago and told me that it's time for me to give y'all this information. So I'm going to give you the information. So first I got to tell you why I do not trust International with these upcoming negotiations. Because if you don't understand why I don't trust them, then you won't understand why I'm making this video. But if you understand why I don't trust International, then you would understand why I'm making this video. And not only that, you will understand that I'm making this video not for me. I don't need to make this video or this information for me. This information is for all those workers who put in all that time on the job, 30, 40 years, and leave broke down and the company forget about them. I'm making this for them. I'm making it for all of those single mothers who get held over unexpectedly for work and can't get home in time to get their underage children, and now they are subject to child protective services because the job added overtime that they said that they wouldn't. So the parent wasn't prepared for it because the company said they would not do it, but the company does it anyway. So now the parent is left in the position as a single parent to try to figure out how to get this child before somebody calls protective services because the job decided that they didn't give her the opportunity to prepare for child care correctly. So these are the type of things that I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about all of those mothers who don't have any help. I'm concerned about them. So this is why when my elder told me to make this video, I'm right on it. I just needed the excuse anyway, and any excuse will do. But in this video, I'm going to expose y'all to something, and it might be a little bit difficult for you to grasp or wrap your mind around. But the reason I don't trust International is because of core value. Core value are those values that if any time somebody deviate from it, they know they have to go back to the core value as soon as possible. And what do I mean deviate from it if it's a core value? We learn in strategy that sometimes you have to back up. That's called a retreat tactic. But in contracts, it's called a recession. So in contract, you sometimes have to take a recession in order for you to reposition yourself to recoup your gains and restore your core values. Now, the first order of business is always the restoration of core value. Now, there's only like 4 core values, and the first core value being is to build and maintain high standards in contracts. What that means is that when the negotiators go in, their aim, their whole mindset and agenda is to get the best deal for the worker, because nobody will speak for the worker if his negotiators don't do it. Now we have negotiators down there. I know none of them personally. I know what the agenda of the companies are, but I don't know none of the negotiators personally. I not met them personally. But the core values, the second core value being all are equal. So if we all equal, why would we settle for having third party companies that's still being paid by the same company? Why would we settle for that without trying to restore the core value of equality, equal work for equal pay? That was one of the primary premises of creating a unified workforce, especially in the early days when the women would get 50% of the pay of the men. That wasn't fair when she was doing exactly 100% of the exact same work. It's still not fair to this day that General Motors would bifurcate its company without protest in the restoration of a core value by our international team. The next core value is we fight for everyone, not just ourselves. So I could be selfish and just going about my business because I don't need this nor the money, because as you're going to find out at the end of this, I'm in the best possible position to help the worker. But I will not help a worker if he don't feel that he deserves a fair wage for his labor. If he don't feel that his job should give him the standard of living where when he retire, he can at least be comfortable in retirement even if he's broke down. This is basic. This is not like rocket science reaching for the moon. This is what you should get automatically, not extra. This is not like some sweeten the pot stuff because the worker got an extra 50,000 units out this year. We know it's not that. It's those workers who bust their tail on the line day in, day out with no complaint. Then they go home and take care of a whole household and never have no time for themselves. They don't have the time to read a book, sit down and color with the kids half the time, because between work and taking care of an entire household alone, they become stretched too thin. The job should supply them the means where they can secure the support they need in taking care of their family and maintaining their responsibility as a worker. When those things are not done, then we need to start looking at our core values again. Who's fighting for us and what are they fighting for? Are they fighting for our interests or their interests? Are they fighting for what's best for the worker or what's best for the negotiator? Because it's not always the same, as we've seen with Chrysler when they had the indictments and convictions for the bribery. That was wrong. The question on the heels of that is, how do the worker trust his negotiators or his company at this point? The trust factor in the whole negotiating process becomes irrevocably damaged at that point. It can't be repaired. Anybody they send in now, they're going to always be wondering, is the company with these deep pockets buying our negotiators? You know, the entire international has no established plan for the restoration of the core values and to eliminate the bifurcated company and restore it back to one company and one union so that our negotiations will be most effective. This is why I don't trust them. I don't trust them because in the time of crisis, they allow individual locals to be isolated away from the power base of the collective. All locals should band together at all times when they in face of opposition. Period. If we're going to stand together, we're going to stand together. If we're not going to stand together, then I'm cool. I can go on about my business. But I'm here for the worker. So, there was a story in the news today. Now I'm gonna show y'all a couple of things in here. How do the elites, those what they call them, and they call them the Illuminati, but that's not really what they are. But I'm going to show you how they communicate. And I'm going to show you how my elder gave me the message that now was the time to give you the information. Now, I'm going to flip my camera around. You'll see I've been studying. And in the, is it going to let me flip it? Okay, there we go. All right, you'll see here my computer. Now, when you talk about high profile people like royal families and different things like that, they don't have to be on the same side of the planet to communicate. They just have to know the signs and the symbols. Now watch this. I go right here. You'll see this. I'm going to turn it sideways so y'all can get a good look at what is being done. If you look right down here in this corner, you'll see 601. 6 and 1 add up to 7. Then over here you will see it's 43 degrees, another 7, right? Now look over here. It's 205 on the ticker, another 7, all right? That's 3 sevens, 3 sevens. Now what's the message on the screen is what's most important. It's right here. We remain open to talking with all affected stockholders. We have now placed over 1,000 employees, and it goes into what they're doing about the negotiations. This word, stockholder. Stockholder. We remain open to talking with all affected stockholders. Now, when you look at that, for a regular person that's not trained, they don't see these things. The 3 sevens is a direct reference to me. Now, there's some other things in the video I could show you that would show you how I know that they are directly talking to me. If you watch the video yourself, because it's posted on some of the UAW websites about the presidential pressure on the UAW. Now, why do I say that's talking to me? The 3 sevens. Last year, well, actually, the end of 2017, I went through the last phase of an initiation into a priesthood. And the priesthood is after the order of Melchizedek. And as I went through the final stages, I was the only priest to pass at the level that I did, which made me the high priest. Now, this high priest gave me a lot of juice in a lot of places because I went through all of the rites. And by doing so, it put me in a very, very unique position to hold the coffers of a lot of stakeholders in major corporations. Once the last phase of my initiation takes place, I will be a prime stockholder in all 3 of the auto companies. I will actually be the CEO's board members' boss. So that means that, like in GM, Mary Barra's bosses would have to answer to me. I haven't received these things yet because I have to unify the workforce in order to show the value of a priest in this era, what they call the godless era. So, like, personally, I could give 2 less drops of poop if you believe in God or not. That's your option. I personally don't care who make it. That's up to the individual. What I care about is creating a condition that everybody can have an opportunity to make it, those who wish to create the circumstances where the misery can be lifted from us. And so, being a graduate, I have a lot of responsibilities I'm going to have to carry from this day forward. Um, I worked at General Motors for 10 years, but nobody knew while I was working there, I was actually studying the environment of the worker. I mean, studying what do they do? What do they go through? What's the day-to-day struggle of a worker? What would make their life better? What is it that they need that their job should be providing for them that it is not? Okay, so now it gets to this point now where y'all want to know, well, who are you? At work, and most of my life, the name that I carry, Rodney Hayes, most people know me as that, or Rod. But then they have some that call me Dr. Rod or Dr. Rod the Walking University. But as a graduate, my high priest name is Morpheus Mysticus Magus, emissary of light, redeemer of the righteous, condemner of the wicked. Know that wisdom must precede justice, so that if the Christ is going to judge the wickedness of man, somebody has to write the order. So I was instructed in every form of writing, law, math, science, physics, metaphysics, quantum physics, dark physics, Egyptology, archaeology, anthropology, morphology, genetics, epigenetics, Kujiin, the martial arts, and I can keep going. But all of these different things was necessary for me to study and to be effective at a high level. So that when this point come and I tell you what I'm going to tell you next, I had to be fully capable of doing exactly what I'm going to tell you next. Now, as a collective of workers, if the workers can unify, have a poll placed at each one of the locals, you will have two options. Y'all can wait till September and go with the international, and I guarantee you you're going to lose because they don't have a plan. I guarantee you you're going to lose because they don't have a plan. I asked them. We had a meeting last year about an MOU at our local, and they sent in some people from the regional. And I stood up in the meeting and I said, well, does anybody have a plan for the recovery of the worker for the losses that they've lost? And it fell on silence. Nobody answered. I'm telling y'all now, I have a plan and it's real simple. And this is the extent of any negotiations I have. Far as General Motors is concerned, mid-contract, all workers will be brought up to $45 an hour by mid-contract. By mid-contract, your base pay will be $45 an hour. You will have a no copay health insurance. It doesn't make sense. That's foolish to spend out all this money for health care after you paid for health care. That's foolish. No copay health care. Dental. Why do you have to wait 10 years of dental work to get dental done because you run out of money every year and make it worse? So your dental should cover the amount of dental work you need. That just makes sense. If you need 4 teeth pulled and 3 cavities filled, then pull 4 teeth and fill 3 cavities. Don't make me sit there with 2 cavities for another 9 months because you don't want to pay. That's foolish. So the workers shouldn't have to go through these things. And then, like, I'm not going to deal with any local agreements, but be bold, but be fair in your local. Be bold, but be fair in your local agreements. What I mean by that is the things you should think about in your local is what will economically support your local workers union. Like what do they need? Like, for instance, you have a cafeteria in the factory you work in and don't have anything to do with the UAW or the worker. That shouldn't be there. That shouldn't be there. Because the UAW have people that own restaurants in almost every single factory. We should be using our own people to do our own work. That's not a slight for the people that work in the cafeterias. We can keep them on. It's not the people, it's the concept. They are extorting you, and you don't even see it. They have those overinflated prices in the cafeteria because you work. But just because you work, that don't mean you don't have other bills to pay. And it don't mean that you should have to spend extra money because you work in the cafeteria at work. That's retarded. You should actually get a better deal for staying at work than going to McDonald's. These are the type of things that you need to look at on your local level. You should look at the single parents. You have single mothers there. She shouldn't have to choose between staying at work and picking her child up from school. I'm sorry, that's just not right. But the local can remedy that if you are fair and you are equitable in your assessment. There's enough smart people in every local to fix every problem if we talk. That's part of the unity program. That's why we need right now to be flooding all these locals trying to come up with solutions. I ain't had nobody come to me with nothing but problems. I got solutions. That sounds different to me. So the next thing is there's a few more things that I would add to the national for GM, but I would rather the worker put a reasonable package that's fair to the worker and the company together. Put together a fair package that's fair to the worker and to the company. If you can do that and y'all can all agree on it, then the negotiations will sound like this. Ms. Barra, if you can tell me why this worker right here that made just under $60,000 last year make too much money, and that's after the bonuses. But you didn't make too much when you took $15 million home in 2015. I want to know what the difference is, why you deserve 15 million instead of 150,000, and she deserved 10,000 as opposed to 100. I don't get it. And they the ones that's making this whole ship run. This is my thinking. So if I'm going to inherit the right to control the company, I'm not going to sabotage myself. You got to remember that. I'm not going to sabotage myself. But the worker have to demand that the company be fair, equitable, just, balanced. The worker should not have to come to work and suffer. That doesn't make sense. The worker shouldn't have to come to work and suffer. So my remedy for Chrysler and any Chrysler workers listening is pay attention, because you're going to have to, all of y'all are going to probably need a personal accountant or send one of y'all kids to school for it. Because of what was done in the convictions that was meted out for Chrysler negotiators and the company, if Chrysler decide to have me speak on their behalf at the negotiations, before they can go any further, 60% of the company, unless they can satisfy the Chrysler worker as to how they are supposed to ever trust negotiators again to represent their interests after what happened. My personal opinion, and from the law books that I've read, I don't see the Supreme Court saying that there's any way that the worker could ever trust the process again. Because the worker in the UAW could never match Chrysler in dollar power on a negotiating table when the integrity of a negotiator is at stake. If the negotiator has any weaknesses in the direction of greed, they're going to buckle under the negotiating purchasing power. There's no way that the worker can trust that process again. So the worker would only remedy would be a controlling interest, where the worker get to dictate to the company what they need and which shops they need open and which cars are not selling. So if I was to speak on behalf of Chrysler, that 60% of Chrysler goes to the worker on the North American front. That means the worker would actually be in controlling interest of Chrysler because of that indiscretion. as far as for Ford, because of a particular thing that Henry Ford did that I won't put out on here, but he done something that was very important. Far as I see, Ford should go in the way of GM unless they have a package that's more fair to the worker, that's not a direct and blatant damage to the company. So basically, the workers should request what's fair. The workers should request what's fair. All of the workers know what's fair. There should be equal work for equal pay, no bifurcation of companies. Now, if they can answer these questions to the people's satisfaction, not mine, then they're going to have to do what I just said. But if they can satisfy the people, then negotiations continue after that until the people find what they want. But I think $45 an hour is fair. For medical is fair with no copay. I think for dental is fair annually, because if you get the teeth fixed right the first time, you won't have to keep getting them fixed every year. You can do minimal upkeep on them. See, these are the things that we're not paying attention to that cost us money. It costs you more money to be poor. It costs you more money to be poor than it do to be reasonably well off. If you can't afford to get your teeth fixed and you got a splitting toothache and you have no more days left to call in from work, what are you going to do? Because you didn't have enough money to get your teeth fixed because they didn't pay enough dental. Your dental should be covered according to the need of the dental treatment for the year, not according to you can only get this amount to fix your teeth. And LASIK. LASIK should be part of your basic optical because it gets rid of the need to get glasses every year. If you can spend one LASIK surgery what you spend on a pair of glasses, it would make sense to get LASIK to repair your glasses if that is a viable option. But it's not covered under the insurance, which is foolish because the pharmaceutical companies will continue getting money off you every year for glasses. But if you get the LASIK, they will only get paid once. Pay attention to how they do you. Now, this is what I'm proposing. I'm proposing that we do what the president said. We don't wait till September. That we have all of our chairmen hold an election and find out what the people want. And if the people want it dictated, I dictate it. I'm going to tell you this. This is how you're going to know. Because if news media get this footage and they play this last part I'm about to tell you, I guarantee you all three of them will come groveling over here. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. That's not what I want. That's not what I don't think the people want, to make the company grovel. I think what the people want is to be treated fair, with dignity and respect, to be treated human and humane. So, I put a post up about a month ago about an undercover boss at Orient. I'm not an undercover boss like I own GM, but when I get my final initiatory right, I will be in control of the stock holdings that's the controlling interest in almost every major company on the planet. So the people got to speak, they got to come together, and they have to be determined not to be taken advantage of, not to be treated less than human, and not to be disrespected. If the company is fair and equitable with the worker, and the worker is fair and equitable with the company, that's perfect balance and everybody wins. But when corporate greed wants to diminish the value of the worker until it affects the self-esteem and sense of self of the worker, the company is wrong. And the company should have to compensate the worker for that wrong, as in the case of what I proposed for Chrysler. So, just so you know, in China, my priest title would be Sun Wukong. And everybody in Asia know what that means, but Americans don't know. In Mexico, when I finally graduate, they will call my priestly title from Mexico down into Central and Northern South America. My priestly title would be Quetzalcoatl, the Great Firebird. And that'd be enough information right there. Because if people in Mexico knew and people in Asia knew, they wouldn't be threatening the big three. They wouldn't be threatening to go overseas, because out of everybody on this planet, I could sit here in Pontiac, Michigan and shut them down in Asia, because nobody over there wants to go against Sun Wukong because they already know I don't lose. The same in Mexico. None of the people are going to go against the Great Firebird. So the goal is May 1st, the chairman of each one of the big three to be at the Orient Assembly Plant in the auditorium, and to satisfy the people that those things that I need them to satisfy the people to, or they're going to have to meet the conditions that I already mentioned. That's going to be the options. May 1st, May Day, May 1st. This is the workers' May Day. This is the day all workers need to be unified. May Day. Think about it. It's for a reason. All this stuff is not just what you see around you. It's much deeper than that. And there's so much more going on that I can't go into right now. I just need the worker to know somebody care enough about them to put their life on the line in order to have them treated fairly, equitably, and correctly. So I'm going to cut this because I know a lot of people don't have a long attention span, and I've been going for a minute trying to explain this where the worker can understand. They have a champion. My totem. You see this? The reason the gorilla is the totem because he never leave his clan without protection. I'm finna move on, but I can't leave my people at Orient unprotected from these wolves. No, none of them want to run up on no gorilla. Trust me. So, I already know who's gonna set the GM signing bonus, which will go for all three companies. But first, I have to cajole that person into sitting down and having a conversation with me so that they can understand that this is not a game or a joke or a presumption. This is real. This the facts. Just unify. Get together. Find any excuse you can to get every worker you can to say, we don't want them people to sell us out. We want somebody to get us what we deserve. Everybody got to understand that. If y'all don't all understand it and y'all don't want to get what y'all deserve, there is a remedy. Section 7. It's Section 7. You can have anybody you want. Now, I will have a price. And this is for a very specific group of people to understand. A very specific group of people that's not auto workers. But when I tell y'all what my price is, that specific group will understand. For each one of the Ford, Chrysler, and GM representatives, $11.10. And from each one of the big three, I want a single mother to give me 1 penny. A single mother from each one of them to give me 1 penny. Just one single mother from each one of them to give me 1 penny. So that's $11.10 per company plus a penny from 3 single mothers. That's it. I don't want nothing else. Because I ain't doing this for the money because I don't need it. That's just to send a message so that they'll know what this is. Just like I showed you the 7s. I'm sending another message. Because they need to know who is sending this message. So, send y'all representatives. Y'all get this stuff together. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I don't need it. I don't have to do it. It's up to the people to determine if they want more. That's their job, not mine. My job is when the people decide they're on the same page, somebody's going to represent their interests and this who it is, and they think it's me, I'm going to rep. But if I don't get that, I'll see y'all on the flip side because I got another fight to fight. But I can't leave the auto worker and the worker in general in distress because if I'm going to go fight injustice, you have to start the closest place first, and the closest place is at home. I work as an auto worker. Been there 10 years. I feel like all the rest of the auto workers. So if I'm going to go somewhere else to fix anything else, I have to fix this first. I can't just leave here and leave y'all in shambles like this without giving y'all an opportunity to recover. Now, I promised somebody very close to me that I care a lot about that I wasn't going to let them lose on my watch. But the only way I can't help them is if the worker does not want help. I can't help anybody who doesn't want help. But it's here. It's just that simple. It's cut like that. It's flat out. If you want it, I can get it. If you don't want it, I can move on. I just need to know what's next. So all you auto workers in solidarity, I'll work with you. I'm one of y'all, but I will not be there long. So get the message out. Y'all got the champ here, and they're not gonna slight me. Trump sent that message to Mary Barra last weekend for a reason when he called her. He told her I was here waiting to negotiate. That's why they said that in the newscast to let me know that's going to get this over because we got some other things that this country need to do in order to heal from all of the trauma. And your president is well aware of who I am and where I'm at. So, I mean, that's why he don't have to worry about the wall no more. He already know. He don't have to worry about the wall no more. He don't have to worry about Cinco de Mayo. He know what I'm talking about. He don't have to worry about that as long as they don't try the shenanigans. And he know what I'm talking about. As long as they don't try to do the old double cross and this goes off smooth, he know what I'm talking about already. So I'm going to leave y'all with that. Know that y'all don't have to be left stranded and alone and hopeless. That's a fact. That's a fact. It's not a conjecture. Now, before I go, I want to show y'all how I study. Because people think I just be talking and I don't. I've been going through this for over 35 years. I'm going to flip my camera around. And if you look at all this, this is on my bed. These are all books and stuff I'm going through on my bed. And then you look up there, you see books. Now, at the foot of my bed, you can't see it right here, but where that gray shirt is, right there, it's a foot locker under there full of books. Now, my nightstand right here, books, study materials, books, study materials, study materials. So, I'll leave y'all with that and give y'all the opportunity to determine what's in the best interest of the worker. And we can take it from there. And the Phoenix takes off from here. So, in solidarity,